If you've never seen a Nintendo 64 controller, here it is, in all its three-pronged glory. It's ugly, but it's iconic, and you may have even played on it as a kid. It came in 6 different colors on release, and then more were made in the years after the N64 came out. The controller was actually received well, everyone liked the feel, and despite the odd three-pronged design, people found it comfortable. The Nintendo 64 controller wasn't the first controller to use an analog stick, but it deserves credit for really starting the trend of thumbsticks and controllers. Along with that, games worked well with the new sensitive stick design, leading to satisfying control over your character. However, the Nintendo 64 controller's greatest asset soon became its biggest downfall. The Nintendo 64 is the 17th most sold console of all time. Respectable, but nowhere near even Nintendo's most popular console, with the DS, Switch, Game Boy, Wii, 3DS, and NES all selling more units in their lifetime. The Nintendo 64 was released in Japan on June 23, 1996, along with 2 games, Super Mario 64 and Pilot Wings 64. Pilot Wings isn't really relevant to this video, but Super Mario 64 is what really makes this console special to me and many gamers who still play on their N64s. But before we can really get to the topic of this video, it needs some backstory. Super Mario 64 is, in my opinion, the greatest speedrunning game ever made, and I'm biased, so you might disagree, but you have to admit Super Mario 64 is a special game, and not because of just what the game is. It really isn't that good casually. However, speedrunning is a whole different story. It's hard to capture the feeling of moving Mario through just words. And if you've ever played the game, you might know what I mean. But if you've speedrun the game, you know just how much there is to learn about SM64's movement. The movement is simple yet complex and requires precise stick and button inputs that need a controller suited for the game. And Nintendo made just that. The Nintendo 64 controller was perfect. The stick was so precise, and the buttons were placed perfectly for a great experience that everyone loved, until they used it for more than 3 months. Now, you may have not noticed this as a kid, or you've just never played on it for long enough, but the N64 controller's stick is very weak, and I'll tell you exactly why. Plastic. See, the stick is made with way too many moving parts, and along with that, they are all made out of plastic, and also, they all rub against each other. If that doesn't already sound like a disaster to you, here is how it works. First, it starts with the actual stick. This has a cap on the top and a nib on the bottom, which goes in what's called a bowl. The bowl is a piece of plastic that has places to hold the gears and encoding discs, but the main part is right in the middle. As you can see, there's a bowl shape, and the nib is supposed to smoothly glide along the bowl like this. The next part is what are called gears. These are so the stick can actually communicate with the controller. The gears do this with teeth that connect to gears on the encoding discs that then use the neutral position to determine how far from neutral the stick is, called values. These are the main things that the stick is made of, and you can imagine with all of this plastic rubbing against each other with no form of lubricant, it's gonna wear down. Nowadays, speedrunners, Smash players, and anyone else who still uses the N64 controller uses lube to help with this issue, but it really only just delays the inevitable. The first part to go is usually the bowl. Instead of the stick gliding like it's supposed to, the nib digs into the bowl, and after using it enough, it grinds it down to a point where the stick is no longer even gliding on anything, just plastic shavings and hope. This causes the stick to sink in and get loose and grainy, basically unplayable at a certain point. After the bowl is usually the nib, which is suffering from the same problem. However, with less plastic to be grinded down, the nib can survive for a little longer than the bowl, usually. Lastly is the gears. They also rub on each other and grind down to a point where the stick becomes more loose and grainy, and the values aren't being reported correctly. Along with that, there's little things like your gate having weird notches and the spring getting loose over time. By this point, you might be thinking, why would anyone use this? And the thing is, this controller is unfortunately the best fit for the Nintendo 64. There are alternatives like the Hori that use a potentiometer like most modern controllers, but honestly, they're just simply worse in every other way than durability. The The Hori is known for having inconsistent values in notches, drift that is sometimes just unfixable, and overall worse buttons. So, for almost 20 years, people just made do, using the controllers until they couldn't, and moving on to the next when necessary. Some used Horis and didn't look back, favoring the durability, but fortunately, on February 12th, 2016, we got a glimpse of hope. Linus Hoffman made a post on Nintendo 64 Forever, showing off his newest sticks that were made of steel, aptly named Steel Sticks 64. The stick had replaceable caps and nibs that were also more durable, along with a steel bowl. The idea was that with a polished steel bowl, along with a Teflon nib, it would be basically friction-free and cause no wear. For the gears, he would use old parts and reshape them to give those old worn-out modules another life. This post gained a lot of traction, all praising Linus for his revolutionary idea, and he had also even sent some speedrunners the sticks. So with some good reviews from them, he would have lots of business. Although they weren't cheap, they required lots of hard work to make. People started getting sticks, and they loved them. People could not wait to get their hands on a stick that would seemingly last forever. But that's the issue. There was way too much demand for just one guy. And by 2019, Linus sold his last stick. Since then, Linus has continued to restock bowls and caps over the years, but this gave way for new companies to begin trying to make sticks as well. From 2020 to now, there have been 2 companies that have completely scammed people, and one of them used to even be a respected member of the community. It's unfortunate, and many of my friends were victims to these companies, and I want to cover these in the future, but fortunately, there is a project that I'd actually like to highlight, because despite the scams, we were blessed by Arthur Odini. Odini began his project in 2020, and on August 22nd, 2022, he announced he was beginning production, and on October 19th, version 1 became available to the public, and sold out very fast. Although not perfect, people were loving the sticks, and Odini was focused on making them even better, and in November, he did just that, releasing version 1.1 on the 14th. This is where I bought my first stick from him, and he continued to make sticks throughout 2023 and into the beginning of 2024. But sadly, after wave 9 of version 1.4, he still hasn't posted anything. But despite that, he's made a positive, everlasting effect on the market for Nintendo 64 sticks. Through all of the adversity, we are here in August of 2024, and right now we have more projects than ever, all working towards the goal of having durable Nintendo 64 sticks and bowls available to everyone. To name a few, Tau Sticks, Kumba, and Rocker Gaming are all doing great work, so please support them in their journey. Super Mario 64 speedrunners in particular have been a huge beneficiary, with mostly every top runner having a steel stick at this point. We are in good hands. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and comment. It helps me out more than you'd think, and have a wonderful day.